Hey, welcome back to my channel. I've tried to move my camera a little bit so that I get a little bit of the outside sunlight in here. It is a very bleak and snowy day at the end of March, and here we are, right? The beginning of spring, and we're still living in the snow. Okay, so today's video, I finally have finished our Colonial America pocketbook. And so I want to show you how I put it together, the stuff that I added into it, so that if you're doing a colonial unit with your family, then you'll be able to kind of glean some ideas of how I put this together. And it's a very, very simple unit. For my kiddos, I have a 5th grader, a 2nd grader, and a kindergartner. My kindergartner kind of was just along for the ride. I didn't really cater anything to his grade level, as he has his own social studies units that I'm doing with him. So this was mostly geared toward my 2nd and my 5th grader. So let's go ahead and get started. So all of my curriculum was built off of this resource. This is the History Pockets Colonial America, Evan Moor. I've talked at length about the History Pocket units or the series that you can get from Evan Moor. I love them, and I have purchased almost, I think all of them. I think I have them all. I don't know for sure, but hopefully, maybe there's some out there that I don't have yet because I love them so much. So that's what I did, and I actually did the whole unit. This isn't my first history pocket that we've done, but we did do it all. This is the first year that I put it into a medical folder. If you watched any of my previous videos from this year, then you know I was super excited about transferring this product into a medical folder, because it's just, the storage is going to be leaps and bounds better than what the like it comes, they tell you to make it with like construction paper essentially, and you fold the construction paper and make that into the pocket, and it's like a 12 by 12 square by the time you're finished and getting like the whole thing together. Then you stuff all the stuff inside, and it's, the storage of it was just horrific. So I went with something different, something that was going to be an 8.5 by 11-ish size, so that it could fit into my kids' totes at the end of the year. And it also just makes, it's great because it'll like stand up on its own. So when we have our open house at the end of the year, then it'll just kind of stand up on its own like this. So lots of fun. So let's just dive right into the nitty gritty of it, okay? So when you purchase this resource, it's gonna come with 8 pockets, and you can pick and choose. Please know, if you're new to homeschooling, or you're feeling this pull towards wanting to be like 100%, doing everything exactly as it's provided for you, please know, like, you have my permission, as if you needed my permission. But just a suggestion, don't force yourself to do everything that is recommended, okay? So there are several pockets here, and we only did, well, whatever's in here, I don't know. So you can get these pockets. Mine has 3 different things in it. You can kind of see here, right? So we have 6, we only did 6 of the subjects or whatever, okay? Now, as far as timeline goes, you can do 1 pocket per day. So essentially, you can do this entire unit in a week's time if that's like the time constraints that you have. You can also spread it out and add other things into it, slide those things into the pockets that they, belong under, and then you can stretch it out so it lasts much longer. So for me, I'm not a great example. We started this in August, I think, to be fair. I mean, maybe it was September, but I'm pretty sure we started, no, because we did exploration first. So I'm gonna say we started, anyway, it was a long time ago. It took us forever to finish this for reasons that I obviously have explained in other videos regarding our time or whatever. So anyway, it took us a long time, but as far as like planning purposes for yourself, I would judge between 2 and 3 days per pocket. That would give you enough time to dive into those specific pieces that you like, and then breeze over the pieces that you don't, maybe incorporate a video or 2, that sort of thing, okay? So we spent a lot more time in the beginning, the front end of the unit, than we did on the back end, because the front end, you're learning about the actual colonies, where they are, what they are, how they were founded, all of that kind of good stuff. So that's this first pocket, is Introduction to Colonial America. And there's a couple of resources that I either made or found to add to it. So this one was one of the really fun ones. This is a Teachers Pay Teachers resource, so I'll put that in the link down below. But it's just this large, like, I think she calls them placemats is what she calls them. But it's just this large piece of paper, and it comes on two sides. And my son was really into like shading, so he used his pencil and did a lot of shading, but you can use crayons. Of course, I'm a crayon fan. I love color. But we kind of went through this, and each of these segments we would learn about. I also coupled this with our history book. I can't reach it. It's in this thing here. But I used a BJU Press history book, and we would read the text from the history book. You can also find videos on YouTube. Just search the Southern Colonies for Kids, and then you can cast that up on your TV or play it from your device or what have you, so that they can kind of get an idea of that. This was just a fun way to kind of break it up. And then I would have my kids like color the picture in the middle as we were watching the little video clip or whatever it was. So there's one for the Mid-Atlantic colonies. And then, of course, on the back here, she has this map so that you can label what the states are. And then here's the one for the New England colonies. Hold on. Let me open it up here. Okay. So in the whole set, and again, I'll put the link in below, you get all three of these. So that was kind of fun. Again, my second grader and my fifth grader. My fifth grader was a little more independent than my second grader, but we kind of got it all through. And then everything else in here came from the pocket, or from Evan Moor. So we have like this little timeline situation going on. I know it's upside down. All of them come with like this quick facts sheet. So I read through this with the kids, and sometimes we would expound on given points, sometimes not. But each of the pockets come with that. And then this was the little map that came with it as well. And then one other thing that I added to the pockets, and it wasn't in there because I've been looking at it and like recreating it, but anyway, is this little thing. And I don't know, we call these, I don't know what these are, but I think I saw an example of it once, and then I just made one for what we were doing, which is the colonies. And it's a bag book, I think. So these are just lunch sacks. See, it's like a lunch sack, right? And then I'm trying to see if I can, I don't think I can show you. But anyway, when you staple it all together, each of the sacks has like this little pocket in here. And then you put things inside the pocket that you need to. So we did this for the New England colonies. And then I have one for the middle and the southern, but we didn't ever get to it because #time and my job and like life got a little bit crazy. So regrettably, we didn't ever finish. But inside each of these pockets, I made these little like cards for each of the states that go inside the pockets. And we just kind of talked a little teeny bit about each of the states for this first one. Please hold, as I put this back in here. Okay, then the second one, I did like families and life. So again, inside, they just have these little like cards where it talks about natural resources, the jobs of the people, and then church. And then I did a third one that's education, and it kind of just talks about how they were educated. So we talked about a horn book. What is this? What the schools were like. And then what is this one? Puritans have special interests in education because, I guess. Anyway, so this idea was stemmed from the actual textbook that I was using. Again, BJU Press. Here, I'll get it. It's right here. Okay, so this is what I was doing, BJU Press Heritage Studies. And I just went through the chapters and then see how they have like each of the colonies here. This is the southern ones, the southern colonies. So anyway, I just made a little pocket for each of these. So this is something that you can like recreate based on whatever book that you're using. And then you can include information that you think is, that you want to teach your kids, and exclude what you want to exclude. If you want to dive into one area or another from your own perspective, then it leaves that open for interpretation. And a cute way that you can put it together is through this little like bag book. So if you haven't seen those before, that's fun. And I do have one for all of the colonies. So if you want this, just let me know. Leave a comment in the section below. Say, I want your bag books. And then I will polish them up so that I can put them on my Teachers Pay Teachers shop, and you can grab mine if you want to do that. Okay. All right. So that was really where we spent the most time. You can kind of see up here, this is my puzzle. So in previous videos, I talked about I've tried lots of different state puzzles. This magnetic state puzzle is my favorite. So we just pulled out all of the colonies from the state puzzle, and that's been like sitting up on our board pretty much the whole time. So anyway, that was that one. The next section that we learned about was homes and villages, and this is one of the pockets that came in here, and it was also a subject that was talked about in the textbook. So it was easy for me to pull some content from it. So one of the things that we did was we drew a picture of a village, and my kids are very artsy. They love doing arts and crafts and stuff such like that. So anytime that I can incorporate that into our learning, that's always a win for them. Anyway, and then what else did we put in here? Oh, this was another thing that I found. This is a suggestion from the book, so I didn't make this up on my own. But we just made these cute little homes, and then we put in all of the stuff that was inside. So it's kind of like a little log cabin situation. And we read Little House on the Prairie last year, so it was kind of an easy way for us to visualize what the house actually looked like, because obviously the Ingalls lived into a one-room cabin. And we also live in Pioneer, I guess, Pioneer Town, where we have Pioneer heritage here in our city. So I just went down the hill to the pond and there's just a little, it's actually a post office, but the idea is the same. So, and we've done that before, but we just did it like as a little field trip on our way out of town. So anyway, that was homes and villages. Then we talked about daily life in the colonies, and the kids talked about what the women wore, what the men wore, what their jobs were. We talked about how needlepoint was important, and all the women would like learn how to sew, and all of the clothing was sewn. My mother-in-law is a big quilter, and so we went over there and she kind of showed us some stuff. And then my mother does a lot of crossed stitch and hand stitching, so we kind of talked to her a little bit. Again, it has this daily life facts sheet. And then the other thing we talked about was food, and the kinds of food that the people had available to them based on the seasons, and how that's different from our seasons. And this was the suggestions from the Evan Moor book, the History Pocket book. And then these like little things, I just went to my local supermarket and picked up their like weekly ads page, and I just grabbed one for each of my kids, and we went through and like cut out examples. And the actual like History Pockets book, this one said, you know, these are the types of foods for each season. So I didn't even have to like use my brain very much. Okay. So those are some of the ideas for daily life. You can also search on like Pinterest. I was considering doing this, but I couldn't ever get it off the ground because my life was really busy. But I wanted to like cook a meal that was normal or considered like an everyday meal for colonial times, with like corn and potatoes and such. But anyway, I didn't ever get around to it. So, but it's an idea, right? Okay. We also talked about school. This was kind of a quick unit where we talked about it because we have talked about school life in history before, and what school used to be like versus what it is today. Mostly because a lot of times we bring up how homeschool is kind of unique in today's world. It's becoming a little more common now because of 2020 and other things, but that everybody used to be homeschooled and now everybody is government schooled. And so anyway, we have talked about this a lot is what I'm trying to say. But again, all of this stuff just comes from the book. We just have a lot of things. Oh, this was a fun thing that we did. Okay, so this little section, it talks about how they do reading and writing practice, and that the students would have to write the same sentences over and over and over again, and that they would learn their manners because they would write their manners out. And so I have this book here when we talked about manners. So I've shown this book a lot if you've been watching my channel. This is called 52 Modern Manners for Everyday Teens. Today's Teens by Brooke Romney. I got it on Amazon, and I just go to a page, and we were learning out whatever specific page, and I was having my students my kids write that. So anyway, it was just a fun little conversation. I said, you know, like we talked about manners in general and how many kids have you seen with manners, and in public places that we have gone, whether it's like story time at the library or Sunday school with the other children, what kind of manners do you see being displayed? And do you think that children are being taught manners and all that kind of stuff? Do you think manners are important? Anyway, so that was a really fun one. And then we made this teeny tiny horn book. But okay, the next section was work. This was a really fast section as well, but we just talked about apprenticeship. I feel like there was another thing that we did, but he didn't put it in here. Anyway, we just talked about apprenticeship. Oh, we played a game. Did they get in here? We did. So in the Evan Moor, here, I'll just show you in this book. They have little like trading cards, they call them, and you can play just like a memory game with your kids. So this is the one that shows all of the different kinds, just an example, obviously not all of the jobs, but just a sampling of several professions that were around during the colonial times. And so we talked about all of these, and then my kids decided, okay, well, which one of these would I want to do if I lived in colonial times? And I'm not going to go to like school and learn about it. I'm just going to go to the shop and become an apprentice. And so we did that. We filled out like the little apprentice sheet, whatever it is. Let's see if I have it right here. Application to be an apprentice. So I just printed that off. And then I acted as the master craftsman, and my kids would come to me and say, I want to work here. And so that, like, if they want to do the lantern, then I was like, okay, you're going to have to hold the nail. And if I bend the nail, you have to go get me a new one. Anyway, so I just kind of was making up some stuff about that. And I was like, hey, if you're going to be the tanner, you have to like learn how to scrape the skin off of the animal. And my kids thought that was gross. But anyway, so it was just a fun like introduction to all of the different professions that were around then. And then we kind of turned it into a conversation about today and trade school versus university versus apprenticeship in our world today, and entrepreneurial ventures and all that kind of stuff. So it was a really fun conversation, and how we tied in colonial America and history to today. So the last one here is memorable people. And again, this is just another really fun one that you can, you know, incorporate memorable people that you want to incorporate, leave out people who you don't want to talk about or whatever. So we just talked about Squanto. These were all suggestions from the book. I didn't come up with any on my own, but we talked about Squanto. We watched a little video, blah, 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 read the book. We talked about John Smith. And then they had a quote from John Smith, and then the kids had to write about if they felt that quote was a good quote, or if that made John Smith like a tyrant. So the quote is, "He who does not work will not eat." And it was perfect because my husband, I kicked the camera. My husband's grandmother grew up on a farm, and my husband spent a lot of time on the farm as a kid, and grandma's saying was, "No worky, no eaty." So it was a fun little like family thing. And then the last one that we did was William Bradford, who is one of our ancestors on my maternal side. He's one of our ancestors. So anyway, and this was fun because it was a little pop-up book, and I've never done a pop-up book with my kids yet. Or if I have, I don't remember, but it was the first time that they had remembered doing one. So that was kind of fun. I was like, oh man, you could do like a whole thing with a pop-up book. So anyway, he did write William Bradford on the front of that, but it's kind of hard to see. So anyway, that was our whole colonial unit. And this format, putting them all into here, was phenomenal. I will do it again for our future History Pocket books that we're going to do. The only thing that I would recommend is, in the beginning, I was just copying these straight out and then trying to like cut them down. And in the end, I learned that when I made the copy just on my home copy machine, it wasn't like at the store, I just had to reduce the size to like 80%, 83% or so. And then it fit perfectly on this little pocket, and I didn't have to like try to slice anybody off or anything like that. So that would be my little like word to the wise, is some of these you may want to, when you copy them, just reduce the size to like 85% or 80%, then it will fit into that pocket instead of, because really they're made for the 12 by 12 butcher or like construction paper that you would build it on. So you don't want to do that. and you want to do it this way, then just reduce it as you copy it. So anyway, it was a fun little unit. If you're learning Colonial America, put in the comments something fun that you're using, because guaranteed in future years, especially when my youngest starts bringing up the rear and we do Colonial America again, I'm going to want to use your ideas to see how I can incorporate it differently or add some other fun things. Check the description box below for those links. And if you're new, welcome to my channel, and feel free to subscribe if you're interested in following along in our homeschool journey. Thanks so much, guys, and we'll catch you in the next video.